Hello, my name is Julie Hodgin, and I am an Arctic Ambassador for Polar Bears International. I attended Team Leadership Camp in 2011. So I'm just going to answer these questions. Where are you now? What do you do now? Did Polar Bears International influence the path that you took here? Yes. It almost seems like a silly question to me. Polar Bears International came into my life at a very young age. I was 15 when I first got involved. Um, I went to a school called Asheboro High School Zoo School. So all of my core classes were at the North Carolina Zoo. So we had math, our science, our history, and our English. So we would get involved with the zoo and we'd volunteer with different things. It was a really cool way to learn. But one day in my chemistry class, our science teacher, Heather Soja, she had us do a carbon footprint evaluation. So we would get online, we answer all these questions like, do you recycle at home? Do you use CFL bulbs? Do you do different things like that? And I was so upset at the result that I got because conservation never been important to me. It was never a priority in our family's life. It was never really taught in school. I mean, you hear like, make sure you recycle that or make sure you turn out the lights, but you never hear why. And it was just never a priority in my life. And I didn't realize the impact that I made on the earth until then. And it really upset me, and that's not the legacy that I wanted to leave. So I had started a really small recycling campaign at my church. It was not a big deal, just very small. But it caught the attention of my science teacher, who was going to start doing Project Polar Bear through Polar Bears International. So Project Polar Bear is a competition to see which small group of teenagers can reduce the most carbon emissions. And she had chosen 3 students, and she shocked me when she chose me because conservation has never been part of my life, and but that's how I got involved. Is she asked me to be part of the team, and I was so excited that she saw that potential in me. So from there, we did conservation education at schools and like elementary schools. So I got to learn and make a difference at the same time. And we did different energy audits at businesses, and our group ended up as a finalist. And Polar Bears International flew us all to San Diego, where we got like behind the scenes tours, and we got our group came in second place. So our prize was a beluga interaction, which was amazing at SeaWorld San Diego. So from there, we came home, and the polar bear keepers told me about an opportunity for a zoo school student to go to Churchill, Manitoba on Team Leadership Camp, which was the grand prize of Project Polar Bear. So I had to write an essay, and there were lots of other participants. But they ended up choosing me to go to Churchill. So I also got the grand prize, which was amazing. And I remember in my before Churchill interview that Polar Bears International gave me, like, what do you expect out of your journey? And there had been some other Arctic ambassadors at the zoo, so I got to talk to them. And all they kept saying is, like, expect your life to be changed. And that's all they gave me. And so I wrote that, like, I expect nothing less than a life changed. And it changed everything. It really did. And we're on the tundra, and we see these bears, and most of them are pretty skinny, and the sea ice isn't formed yet, and it's just heartbreaking. And we get to Skype with Dr. Stephen Anstrup, which is such an amazing climate change scientist. So it was just so cool to learn all of that and be in that setting, and it influenced everything. So From there, I came back and did a few things at the zoo, and spoke about my time in Churchill to different elementary schools, and did different conservation education things, and got more involved with Acres for the Atmosphere, and became the marine mammal intern at the North Carolina Zoo the summer of 2014. So from there, I got to talk to people. I got to go up to the overlook of the polar bear exhibit and really talk to them about what's going on with this bear. And you can get to know this bear, but make sure that you care about the species as a whole. So it was really cool to be able to talk about one individual bear and then relate it to the whole species, and talk about the things that they're facing. And it's so important to do that. So from there, I am in school. I am a full-time student at University of North Carolina at Greensboro, a biology major with a minor in Spanish. And this last summer, I was a rehab volunteer at the Alaska Sea Life Center. So we got to rehab different species of seals. We got 2 ice seals in, which was amazing. And just see climate change in a whole new perspective. Living in Alaska, you get to see the glaciers and how they're receding and everything like that. So, everything that I've done has rooted from Polar Bears International. Are there any moments that stand out as moments that change the way you think or reinforce previously held thoughts or beliefs? Yes. The president of Polar Bears International, Robert Buchanan, I've spoken to him several times, and he's given several talks, and I was getting frustrated because, some people just don't understand, and you're going to encounter that with anything you do. But it's so hard to come back from Churchill seeing all these things and really experiencing climate change firsthand, and no one cares or no one agrees with you, and climate change is such a political issue and it really doesn't need to be. But I remember talking to him and asking, what do I do about these people that just refuse to believe me? Like, it's so frustrating. Like, how do you deal with that? How do you get them to believe what you're saying? And he's like, you don't have to. Like, that they're not going to change. Sometimes it's better to spend your energy on people that you know are going to make a difference. So instead of trying to drill into someone like, you don't understand, this is what's happening to polar bears, this is what's happening to the world, instead of drilling it into someone who probably will never agree with you deep down, it's best to spend time on that child that you're really getting to, and the one that are going to influence the world in a bigger way than that one other person. So that was one thing that really stands out for me, and kind of gave me a lot of peace after that. Like, not everyone has to agree, and not everyone will, but it's important to focus your energy on the ones that you know are going to make a difference. Name one of your goals for the future. That's a loaded question. I'm still a teenager. I'm 19 years old. I'm turning 20 next week. I have lots of different goals. I would love to return to the Arctic. Since I went to Churchill and then lived in Alaska, I have been so drawn to the Arctic ecosystem and really seeing it for what it is now, and just predicting the future for it. And I just feel like that's one of the key places that we really need to cherish while we can. So I'd love to return to Churchill. I'd love to just be part of the Arctic ecosystem again. That was amazing. Discuss one challenge you faced in your journey as an ambassador. And did you overcome it, or are you still working on it? I touched on this before, but one of the challenges that I faced coming back from Churchill as a 16-year-old and trying to educate the public about climate change and, listen to what I saw and listen to what I experienced. And people will get really mad and argue with me as a teenager about climate change. And it's so tough. It was so discouraging because you come back with so much energy and so much fire, and people just are mean, and that's that. It's climate change has become one of those controversial topics that doesn't need to be. If you don't believe in climate change, that's okay. But conservation in itself can do no wrong. I mean, whether you believe in climate change or not, turning out your lights and carpooling, what's that gonna hurt? It's nothing. So that was one of the things that really, it was a big challenge, and I think it had to do with the region that I live in. I live in North Carolina, and the Southeast is a beautiful place, and a lot of people can't see the effects of climate change firsthand, which causes a lot of misunderstanding and apathy. And it was a struggle for sure. And but because I've been to Churchill with Polar Bears International, I can appropriately express the urgency that conservation so desperately needs. But I'm still working on it. I mean, it's a struggle every day, but sometimes you just have to leave people at the bus stop and just give them the information that you have and just let them choose what they want to do with it. Why should people care about polar bears? Oh, man. Polar bears are so important. If you get rid of polar bears, you're disrupting the ecosystem of the entire Arctic Circle. Polar bears are such a key species, and more important than their ecosystem itself, polar bears have become such a poster species for climate change. And once you get rid of that, what do you have to show? Frogs are being affected by climate change. Whales are being affected. Everything's being affected, but polar bears have become such an iconic species for climate change. And to lose such an educational tool and such a wonderful species would just be so tragic, and it would make conservation education a lot harder for people to care about, the smaller species that are being affected. People tend to care about the charismatic megafauna that are being affected more than, insects or amphibians. So polar bears are really important to care about and protect. What is one thing that you would like to share about your experience with Polar Bears International and Clients Alliance Leadership Camp that has had an influence on where you are today or who I am today? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Polar Bears International has completely shaped my life, and it does have to do with how young I was when I got involved. I'm just so proud to be part of such an amazing group, and it's amazing to have that support, and just that you can rely on these Arctic ambassadors to give you support and to give you guidance and to give you ideas about how to appropriately address the controversial aspects of climate change. And it's just such a great group to be involved with. Which leads me to the next question. What makes you proud to be a Polar Bears International alumni? It's amazing that I'm even talking about this right now. Just to be one of the very few people that have actually been to the Arctic and seen wild polar bears while they're still here. That's amazing. And that's something to be proud of. And I think the thing that makes me the most proud is the education that Polar Bears International supports and encourages. Education has never been something I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to talk to these people. It's just one of those things you have to do. But Polar Bears International has made me so excited about the future of the United States. And I'm so proud to be part of this amazing group that's educating the next generation to make a difference. It's something really to be proud of. Looking back, is there anything you would like to say that to new Clients Alliance participant boarding a plane to leave Churchill and return to the real world? I think the most important thing that I would have liked to have known is the most important thing to remember when you come back is that you have to find a support group. You can't do it on your own. As a 16-year-old coming back, I thought, I'm going to lead this group and I'm going to do this and I'm going to single-handedly talk to all the children in my area. No, that's not possible, especially for how young I was. But it's so important to be established in your area and to get to know the climate leaders in your area. They are going to help you like you'll never imagine. And even if they can't supply you with, educational resources or anything like that, it's good to have those contacts in your back pocket in case you do need something. So that would be my priority coming back from Churchill, is to find a group of leaders that you can be involved with and get involved with the people that are going to make you a better Arctic ambassador. Get involved with the people that are going to pull you up and support you when you've just been discouraged by someone saying that climate change is a lie. Just to have that support and to know that you're not alone, that's key. It is key. And from those resources, you can have ideas and projects and educational outreach with these leaders. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. What are some of your accomplishments as an Arctic ambassador? What activities are you most proud of and which have had the greatest impact? I'm proud of how excited I am for education. I love to talk about Polar Bears International. I love to talk about polar bears, and I love to talk about the problems that they face. I'm so proud that I've developed that skill, and just to influence the life of one person. That's amazing. And you never know where that one piece of education or like that one piece of advice that you give a child, you never know where that's going to lead. You never know if they're going to be the next climate scientist just because you told them about polar bears. You never know. So that's one of my biggest accomplishments personally, and I'm very proud of where my career has taken me from Polar Bears International, and I'm very proud of the connections that I've made through Polar Bears International. Where do you find inspiration and hope for the future? In the children. There's no other way to put it. If you can focus on educating children about the effects of climate change, you've got a really good system going on. They are going to be the ones that are telling their parents, like, hey, why don't we just go pick up my friend instead of having their parents drive them? Motivating people is such an important thing, but I really think that we should be focusing on the children. They listen to more than you think they do, and that's where I find the hope. When I see kids' eyes light up when they see our bear at the North Carolina Zoo, like, man, that's awesome. Man, I'm so glad that they're connecting with with our polar bear, and then in turn they're caring about her wild counterparts. There's nothing you can ask more than that. Just to care. That's amazing, and that's my hope for the future. And just a little bit about my adventures this summer. It was amazing. I spent 2 months in Alaska. I was working at the Alaska Sea Life Center, and we were doing rehab on harbor seals. We had a Steller's eider, and we had 2 ice seal species. We had a ring seal and a spotted seal. And I think my favorite, if I had to choose a favorite part of my job, was working with the spotted seal. I had never seen an ice seal before. That was amazing. And he was in such bad condition when he came in, and just to be part of his recovery, and he's going to do wonderful things for his species, and just the research that we'll be able to learn from him is just really invaluable, and it was just amazing to be a part of. So after Alaska, I went to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, and I worked at the Sea Turtle Conservancy there, helping the research assistants. So what I did there, I worked night shifts, so we would look for nesting turtles or emerging turtles, and they were all green sea turtles. And we do measurements on them when they're camouflaging their nests. And sometimes we'd even count the eggs so that we can mark their nests and know approximately how many eggs are going to come out, how many hatchlings should be coming out, and kind of get the success rate of each nest. So I was there for 10 days, I think, around 10 days, and I got to see so many cool things. My very first night out on the beach, I got to lay behind a nesting turtle and actually count the eggs as she would drop them in my hand and just turn them over into the nest, and I had a clicker in one hand. It was so cool. It was definitely hard to go from the Arctic to the rainforest in Costa Rica, but it was a change worth doing for sure. Yeah, those are a little bit about my adventures. Since I've come home, I volunteered at the North Carolina Zoo in the Rocky Coast Mammal area again, same place that I interned. So I have been working with our polar bear and our harbor seals. So it's been really cool to go back to there and once again have a support group that you can go back to. It's amazing. But yeah, that's how Polar Bears International has affected my life. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.